This is a production from the Takedown Sports. What's up, y'all? T Brown 31 here with Jaboc the Great. We're back with another episode of The Last Word. So this episode will be our draft preview special. We'll mainly be looking at the top 15 of the first round, since that's where a lot of the action is going to be. And of course, the first round gets its own night compared to the rest of the rounds being on Friday and Saturday. So we'll be looking over that and talking about what we think will happen, what should happen. Overall, just giving our opinion there. So without further ado, coming at number one.
Yeah, so we have Terrence and I both agree to be an obvious first pick, and that is Trevor Lawrence headed to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, he's pretty highly regarded as being the top prospect in the draft, Trevor Lawrence, that is, and we don't really see how there's any way that Jacksonville will pass up on that. They do need kind of that guy to be a quarterback, and out of the ones to pick from, it seems like Trevor is definitely the safest one to go number one this year.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much an easy given. Same with how Joe Burrow was an easy given at one, but even then, Joe Burrow showed up in one season. Trevor Lawrence, pretty much from the time he won that title freshman year, pretty obvious he was going number one in the draft. So that's easy to say. I think the draft starts probably around 2 or 3, depending on what your opinion is of what the Jets will do.
Yeah, I agree. I think about right at pick number 2 is when the draft kicks off for me, because I do think that the Jets have now put themselves into an interesting position. As we talked about a few episodes ago, the Jets traded Sam Darnold to the Panthers. So they are in that kind of pool of teams that are looking to pick up a quarterback. And they've got a lot of good choices to make from. You've got Justin Fields, you've got Mac Jones, Zach Wilson. There's a lot of choices here. Now, personally, I think Justin Fields is the best one to take, but I'm not sure the Jets will take him. I kind of think that they'll go for Zach Wilson.
Yeah, that seems to be what most of the experts are saying. I like Zach Wilson, but I also, I mentioned this a few episodes when we were talking about this. I didn't watch a whole lot of Zach Wilson. I do like him, but I don't really see how all of a sudden, it's a foregone conclusion that he's going number 2 for the Jets. I think that's probably what will happen, but I don't know how that became like a set thing.
Yeah.
Like you just said, they could take Justin Fields, but it seems kind of like with San Francisco, which we'll talk about in a second. It seems like it's going to be set to be Zach Wilson, so it is what it is there.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a few things from Zach Wilson. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a great quarterback. I don't think I would say he's better than Justin Fields, but it just kind of seems like the narrative is pushing towards the Jets grabbing Zach Wilson. I do feel like sometimes the media narrative kind of pushes some teams' directions, and I think the Jets would be one of those teams that would be a little swayed.
Yeah, I mean, you would think, Kyle Shanahan said this like yesterday or whatever, but you would think that they wouldn't be influenced by what happens on social media and what the media narrative is. But you never know. I mean, we know the Jets are going to take a quarterback from the moment they traded Sam Darnold, obviously, but I didn't expect it to just automatically gravitate towards it being Zach Wilson either.
Yeah, and in some ways, I kind of feel like it's like them grabbing Sam Darnold again. Like, I don't think Zach Wilson and Sam Darnold are exactly the same, but I just kind of see the same comparison to be made. Like, they just kind of grab this sort of top guy and throw him into the pit that is the New York Jets.
I think Zach Wilson could probably have more of an upside. Now, I mean, Sam Darnold was saddled with a pretty trash team, but I guess being the type of quarterback that Zach is, because obviously Zach's more of the new age quarterback, athletic,
Yeah.
that kind of guy. So if they put a good team around him in New York, now they obviously need to draft very well in the next few rounds. They obviously have the second pick of each round. So they need to do something with those picks.
Yeah.
But I guess they're going for more the well, let's build around Zach, and in a few years we'll be good kind of thing.
Yeah, which could work out for them as long as like all players turn out to be what they should be.
Yeah, pretty much what I agree with you there for the most part.
And that takes us down to the third pick, which would be San Francisco, the 49ers, who also seem to be primarily within the quarterback race. The other day, when asked if Jimmy Garoppolo would still be on the team Sunday, Kyle Shanahan said, "I can't guarantee anybody will be alive Sunday." So, kind of sounds like a no. And that, if we're saying Zach Wilson is gone at pick 2, that leaves Justin Fields, Mac Jones, and a few others. And I think Justin Fields is the best pick for the Niners. I'm not sure that's what they'll make. A lot of people seem to think Fields will fall, but I don't think the teams are that stupid. I think the Niners would probably be smart enough to snag a talent like Fields and put them in what is generally a well coached and well run organization.
Yeah, maybe Justin Fields killed somebody and we just don't know about it. And the only people that actually do know what happened are the scouts and people that are in the media, draft analysts and whatnot. Because I really don't understand the narrative behind him. I see people got him at the bottom of the round and crap like that. Like, come on, like, don't be stupid. Justin Fields, like he might not go in the top 3, but there's no reason he should be anywhere past 10 because there's
Yeah,
at least like most of the teams in the top 10 need a quarterback or could at least get a quarterback if they wanted one. So
yeah,
there's no reason. As far as Mac Jones, that does seem like that's the play for San Francisco at 3. I just don't. I mean, if you want to trade up to get a QB and you have your guy and you know that's what you want, then go ahead. I just don't get the trading up 3 just for Mac Jones.
yeah. Just from watching Mac Jones play like in college, and even seeing like his pro day stuff, I'm not sure that I would confidently take him over Justin Fields. Like maybe Kyle Shanahan sees something that he can transform there, and he wants to work on that. But like when I was watching Mac Jones' pro day, you see the issues that Jimmy Garoppolo has kind of mirrored within Mac Jones. Like he's a young stud of a talent, but then he just kind of launches the ball way past receivers. So it's doing that on a pro day is a little scary, which we talked about this before. But I do think that it's more likely that the Niners will pick Mac Jones, although I think the better pick is Justin Fields.
Yeah, people seem to bring up the fact that Joe Burrow had all these receivers at LSU, but they act like Mac Jones didn't have a receiver that won the Heisman. I mean, Mac Jones played great from the good amount of SEC football that I watched this season. Obviously, he won the championship game against Justin Fields, but it's not like he's throwing the scrubs out there either.
Yeah,
Obviously, Jalen Waddle was out for a pretty good chunk of the season, but you still had a receiver win the Heisman for the first time in years. So I feel like I think Mac Jones is that he's the more prototypical QB. They feel that Mac Jones will probably be ready the fastest, save for Trevor Lawrence, obviously.
yeah.
So I guess that's probably the thinking there, and he might be able to fit that offense and what Kyle Shanahan wants to do.
Yeah, I think I see your point there. Like, they probably see him as the easier quarterback to develop, uh, just because he really fits in like what the prototypical quarterback is these days, and so like Kyle Shanahan probably sees that as an easier way to get success faster. Like, I guess saying like you could get Justin Fields or Mac Jones and be successful around the same amount of time span, but Mac Jones, I guess he thinks he can do it just a little faster. But yeah, at the same time, the Joe Burrow comparison, it's not like Mac Jones was thrown to no names. His receiver won the Heisman, which is incredible for a receiver to do, and that should definitely put some things into perspective with Mac Jones's like accomplishments, especially for a quarterback who kind of seems to have sometimes the just chuck it and somebody's down there mentality when you have somebody like Devontae Smith who can actually get down there and get the ball. So
Yeah, I'm about to say is like you really don't have to worry too much about that. I mean, you just gotta a quote unquote track team of receivers, obviously, both those guys, Joe Burrow and Mac, are both obviously great. But, when you have those receivers, it's not extremely hard, right?
Yeah, it makes your
But
job a lot easier.
yeah, but he did win in the biggest game of the year. He is that kind of prototypical QB. It seems like they moved up to get Mac Jones for a reason. That's their guy. Now I wouldn't be completely surprised if they draft someone else, but that seems like what it's going to be at this point.
Yeah, I think the Niners are probably one of the main teams that I just can't quite put a full finger on. Like I think they'll get this person. Like I think they'll go for Mac Jones or maybe Justin Fields, but they honestly could grab one of like a handful of people, and it wouldn't be super surprising.
Yeah, I would agree there.
All right, and that brings us down to the fourth pick for this year's draft, and that is the pick for the Atlanta Falcons, who are kind of in the could grab a quarterback situation, but there's some other stuff they need to worry about. They do have Matt Ryan, who I know is getting kind of old, but he still seems like a fine quarterback. So I'm not exactly sure on what Atlanta needs the most or what they'll go for.
Yeah, if I was Atlanta, I would not draft the quarterback. Like you said, obviously Matt Ryan, he's about to turn 36 in a few weeks, but there's no point right now. Like you need to focus on getting something to help you not choke every single season,
Yeah.
Like get something to help that defense, or if you want to help the offense even more, then of course get Kyle Pitts, which a lot of people are going to be trying to get.
Yeah, Kyle Pitts would be a great pick for them. I also think they might need to get some quarterback protection just a little bit because Matt Ryan is probably about 6 sacks away from retirement. So the O lineman from Oregon, was it Penei Sewell?
Penei Sewell, yep.
Yeah, he might not be a bad pick for them, but Kyle Pitts is definitely a strong pick for them to take. I definitely would not take a quarterback in their position, but you never know.
Yeah, I mean, if they were lower or something, maybe, but with that high of a pick, you don't need to take a quarterback. You want to at least get something out of Matt Ryan for the last few years of his career. However long he's going to play, you need to get something to help him and
Yeah.
help this team. Now, that brings up an interesting situation because we see the news about Julio. I don't think he's actually going to get traded, but we don't really know.
I can't see them trading Julio, but if that was to happen, then they have a huge slot to fill right there, and that opens up a lot of wide receivers in this draft to choose from. I mean, you got Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle. It's a lot of people if they decide to get rid of Julio.
Yeah, and I think there's a difference in cap hit that they would take. I think they would take a like $8 million more of a cap hit if they trade him before June 1st, I think it was. So I don't really see them doing any trade with Julio.
Yeah,
As
because
far
it
as
just hurt them.
yeah, as far as draft night goes, I don't see that happening. After that, I don't know. Like maybe they might think oh, we can trade him later and just get a guy now, but I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I mean they take the cap hit, which would suck for them, and then so in theory, getting another young wide receiver is great to put alongside like Calvin Ridley because they did really good with picking him, and he's performed very well in that system, regardless of the Falcons' overall performance. But right
Yeah,
now, I'm not sure that trading Julio, taking the cap hit just to grab another young wide receiver is their best option.
yeah,
So
I agree there. So either get Sewell or get Kyle Pitts and call it a day there. Or if you wanted to trade back and get corner, because I don't feel like they would take a corner at 4. They might, but if
I
you
think
wanted to
those
trade back, yeah,
those are the best options. Grab Sewell or Pitts or trade back a little bit to focus something on defense. So
yeah. And then that brings us to the team that had number 1 last year and got Joe Burrow, the Cincinnati Bengals at number 5.
yeah, so this is definitely a wild card team here. There's a lot of things they can work on. Quarterback probably is definitely not one of them, right? They just got Joe Burrow, and there's not. I think it'd be very dumb for them to pick up another quarterback this year, regardless of Burrow's injury. But they need to give Burrow some help. So I think that's the best thing to do is to either give him some weapons or kind of help him with the O line. And their defense could probably use a little work as well, but that's a high pick to that focus on something like that.
Yeah, the Bengals should be thinking about Penei Sewell and nothing else. I understand Joe Burrow won a championship with Jamar Chase, but you can throw to Jamar Chase, but you'll die within 8 games in the season, and it won't matter. You need offensive linemen badly. I think Cincinnati probably has the worst offensive line,
Yeah.
period. Um, so you definitely disrupt that offensive line. If you can, obviously they just lost AJ Green, but I think AJ Green kind of was lost a good while ago, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Uh, so you would need some more weapons, but I think the most important thing for a young QB is to get an offensive line. Otherwise, you can't do jack.
Yes, I'm going to agree with you and say best case scenario they grab Penei Sewell and start fixing that O line. Worst case scenario, Atlanta grabs him, and then Cincinnati's kind of in trouble. And I don't really know what they do then, but I don't think Atlanta will grab Sewell, and I think Cincinnati will. It'll be an easy, quick pick. You know, protect Joe Burrow, protect your young star who's got like huge potential to be very big if he could just keep his legs intact.
Yeah. And then that brings us to number 6 with Miami, and that is another, wild card kind of interesting scenario there.
Yeah, Miami, the team of finesse, as they they seemingly traded almost pretty far out of the first round, like a little bit down when they gave San Francisco the third pick, but then immediately after swapped back to having the sixth pick when they took the pick from Philly. So once again, this isn't one of the teams that I think should get a quarterback. There's some people saying that they should draft one because maybe don't trust Tua. I think Tua will do fine, and I think for Miami drafting a quarterback is a bad option. Now they could get Tua some weapons. They could work on their defense. Miami was a pretty good team last year. There's just a few things that need tweaking to get them to where they need to be, and it just depends on who's on the board here for them. Maybe a receiver, like a good receiver, would be good for Tua. What do you think?
Yeah, the noise about them getting another QB is just nonsense to me. I don't really. You don't even give these guys a chance anymore. I mean, Tua played like what 10 games last year.
Yeah, pretty
So
much, and he didn't start all of those.
yeah, so what would be the point of you drafting another QB that high up? Because remember, it's not like they were in the top. It's not like they had that 3 pick because they were bad last year. They had that because they finessed Houston, uh, and now they have the 6th pick. So again, it's not because they were bad. They just really good at trading. So get something to help Tua. If Kyle Pitts is still there, then obviously get him. Get
Yeah,
any one of the top receivers. Um, I doubt Sewell will probably be gone by then. I assume, but
I think
that's just
so.
I feel like Cincinnati really has to take him. So just get him some offensive weapons, build around Tua. Like you, at least give him another season. To see what he's
Yeah,
made of.
there's no point in drafting a rookie quarterback that has that much like star power around him and then not giving him more than a season to test the waters out. And as far as if Kyle Pitts is gone, then that leaves people that once again you got Jamar Chase, you got Jalen Waddle, you got Devontae Smith. There's a lot of people here for them for Tua to really just work well with, like great weapons to throw to.
Yeah, I mean, you got guys that he played with in college and
Yeah,
very successful with, obviously, that same track team of receivers. So, you can get one of those guys just because of the rapport. If you want to get Jamar Chase, if Kyle Pitts is still there, any kind of offensive weapon would be good. Um, just build around to it. Like it seems pretty simple. I think they way overdraft, not overdraft, excuse me. They way overthink when they draft. It's
yeah,
like you just make the smartest decision, pick the best player that can help your team. Simple as that.
yeah. I think the coaching staff and the GM and everything in Miami is on a good track to stop making bad decisions and kind of take Miami out of being like a terrible team. So it's good to see them kind of on the up and up again, and I think they'll make a good pick to build with Tua. If they do pick a quarterback, however, I'll just retract that entire statement that I just made, and they can go back to the bottom of the NFL.
Yeah, I would agree there. I think that would probably be the dumbest scenario out of any of them.
And that takes us to pick number 7, which is the Detroit Lions. And this is one of the teams that there should be no question about them not grabbing a quarterback. They just did the trade with the Rams, so they now have Jared Goff, who they clearly think is going to be their guy. And there's no need for them to pick up one of these quarterbacks. So now is the question of what do they need to help out in this new Jared Goff era of Lions.
I don't know if I even really agree with you there because I mean, yeah, they traded for Jared Goff. They obviously had to get like somewhat equal value. That's Matthew Stafford is better than Jared, obviously, but they had to get something.
Yeah.
But do they really think Jared Goff is going to be like that guy? Is he kind of more of just a bridge QB? I mean, I'm not really sure because even with Matthew Stafford, obviously the Lions have been, trash like consistently. That's just who the Lions are. So,
I think I think
yeah,
I see your point here, right? So I think in my eyes, like Detroit has always had a decent quarterback for like the past few years, and so quarterback isn't their issue. But I do get what you mean. Like maybe they think Goff is just going to be like a bridge quarterback, and there's some great talent in this draft to go ahead and just cross that bridge and not have to give Goff a trial year. So I think maybe Detroit is open up to a lot of different opportunities depending on what's left by the time it gets down to them.
yeah. So, like once again, I mean, it kind of just depends on who's there. This is probably one of the weirdest drafts, like as far as who's there, who won't be there. Like we really don't know. Um,
It's just so
Detroit
many
can take
teams. Yeah. But yeah,
honestly.
so many teams need so many of the same thing, but at the same time, like there's so much debate about each person in each position that it's hard to like figure out what teams think is this is the guy here. And so especially for Detroit, they just need a new team. And so like they're super open to taking any of these guys. I mean these should be some really good rookies to come in and hopefully turn Detroit's franchise around. And maybe this coming year we'll have a Miami situation with them where they'll be kind of in the playoff pack, which Miami had a winning record last year, but of course the AFC was super competitive, and that's what cut them out. Detroit, however, I don't think they had a winning record.
Nah, I mean Detroit just I don't know. Like they have DeAndre Swift, who they drafted last year. I think he'll be pretty good in the coming years. Obviously, they just got Jared Goff. Like I said, I don't see Jared Goff as that guy. Now Dan Campbell, Mr. Kneecap Man, he might think Jared Goff might be the guy, and he liked the move that they made with that. But I don't know. I mean, the Lions are always pretty much just stuck in purgatory, so it kind of just just pick the best player available. I think that's their best
Yeah,
situation.
I think that's gonna be what they do. I forgot they picked up Dan Campbell as the new head coach, but
Yeah.
yeah, maybe he does think Jared Goff's that guy, or maybe he's hoping as well to just kind of move on from him. I mean, a lot of people thought Goff was going to be that guy when he was in the Rams, and that didn't work out. So I agree. Detroit just needs to take whatever the best is available at their spot. Just grab the number one dude left open.
So that brings us to our Carolina Panthers at number 8, and I really have no clue what Carolina's going to do, man.
What I would like for Carolina to do is, if he's still open, get Kyle Pitts. We have a good receiving team. We just grabbed Sam Darnold. If that's what we're doing, then I'd rather, just go with Sam Darnold and start giving him a few more weapons. He's got some good receivers. Give him Kyle Pitts if he's open. What I hope we definitely don't do is take a quarterback. And the only reason for that is because of the Sam Darnold trade. If we wouldn't have traded for Sam Darnold, I'd be open to taking any of these quarterbacks that would be here. Like Justin Fields would be a great dude to have as the next guy for the Panthers if we didn't already pretty much put all our eggs into like moving around with Sam Darnold, and we got rid of Teddy Bridgewater. So just such a weird situation.
Well, think of the scenario that we have now that let's say, obviously, the first 3 picks of QBs not named Justin Fields. Atlanta gets Kyle Pitts, and then let's say Cincinnati gets Sewell, and then both Miami and Detroit just get weapons. I mean, that does leave Justin Fields at 8. Now, I think Justin Fields probably has the higher upside than Sam Darnold, but again, we haven't seen Sam Darnold in like a stable organization yet. So I can't really I can't really say because I mean, obviously these guys are unknown. I mean, heck, Trevor Lawrence might not even turn up to be that good. Like I think he
Yeah.
will, but we don't know. So if he's there, I could understand taking him at 8 just because of the fact that he's there. But then I was thinking, okay, what are we doing with Sam Darnold then? What's the point of that, right? So
Yeah,
that
so
might be. Go ahead.
that's where I'm gonna agree with you there. So if the draft goes exactly how you just said it is, and like the top weapons are out, and it's just Justin Fields left there at 8, then I think we should pick him. It's just then what do we do with Darnold? Because
Yeah,
we need some closure on that end of things, and we need to at least trade him to gain something from it. Because like it's not really worth having both of them, I don't think, because we already have like a PJ Walker and everything as a backup. Who he's a pretty strong backup, but it's a tough situation. And I think if he's open at 8, then yeah, we should get him. And we look pretty bad if we didn't. But it's just then what do we do? Because we're put in such an odd position.
yeah. I mean, because remember now, before things happened with Deshaun Watson, we were thinking, oh, we can try to get Deshaun Watson if we do a trade. And then before we traded for Sam, we were like, okay, let's try to get Justin Fields and blah 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 blah. Now that we traded for Sam, we just traded Teddy for a 6th round pick. So that was a waste. Uh,
Useless.
so I'm not going to accuse the Carolina Panthers organization of thinking ahead, really. So
Yeah, it kind of seems like they're just going on a whim. Like I feel like today they woke up and the Broncos are like, "Hey, we'll give you a 6th rounder for Teddy," and they're like, "Yep, okay."
all right, cool. Like get him out of here and fix his contract up. Be done with it. Uh, I don't know. I think the offense will be really good. The offense is definitely going to be really good. I would like to see us get a corner.
Yeah,
Um, Patrick Surtain, friggin' JC Horn, like anybody at corner, I think it'll be fine. Now, depending on if we trade back, I wouldn't want to take like the third or fourth best corner at 8, because
yeah,
I don't think there'll be two corners going in the top 8. So
yeah,
if we can get Patrick Surtain, that'd be great. He's probably a lot of people saying he can go to Dallas, which would be kind of interesting to see there.
yeah. It
Uh,
would. I
I don't
think.
know. I think we should just probably pick the best player available. Like if Justin Fields is there, then yeah, do that. Figure out something with Sam. Try to get some kind of value for him. And then if he's not there, then you get a corner or you get a good offensive weapon. Like if
Yeah,
you want, yeah,
I think I agree because if we get if even if Fields is open, maybe Sertain is a better pick for us right now. But like, and that becomes a tough choice. Like, do you grab who could be your next offensive star, or do you start really helping out this defense? But I'm gonna go. I think we should take Fields if he's open, and if not, and if we can't get one of those good weapons, then Sertain's probably my pick.
yeah. And then that brings us to Denver, like I was just mentioned. I'm not really sure what Denver is going to do because I don't think Teddy is going to be the starter. But I don't know if they're going to stick with Drew Lock at this point either.
Yeah, so this is the team that played the game against the Saints last year, where they had a wide receiver come in and play quarterback. So they definitely seem like they need quarterback help, right? But they've got Drew Lock, who should come back from his injury. They won't have the COVID problems, and they have Teddy now. But I don't think Teddy will be the starter, as Terrence said. I think them grabbing a quarterback makes sense. It's just a question of who by the time you're at pick number 9, and do you really want to do that with just having acquired Teddy and still having Drew Lock and everything? Denver is another one of these. I put them in the Detroit box where there's a lot of things they could do, and almost anything would help them because they need help.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to draft like Micah Parsons from Penn State, I mean that would be something that would work there. Try to get that defense back up, or if you want to take a quarterback, Trey Lance. We haven't mentioned him yet. That could be a thing if everybody else is taken. Which again, I don't know how this is going to play out. Like we both kind of agreed top 3 will be QBs, and then from there it gets kind of weird.
Yeah,
So maybe that's a Trey Lance situation if they want to move up for Drew, but I don't know. You never know what these teams are really thinking. I mean, Drew looked good year before last for some time, and then this past year he obviously didn't look nearly as good, and then they had COVID issues. So I'm not really sure what they would do. I would draft Michael Parsons there, to be honest, if he's there.
Yeah, I think if Micah Parsons is open, that's probably the safest pick for the Broncos. Like it gives them something they need, and it absolves them of any like criticism of that was a bad pick because it like I said it fills the spot that they need. If they wanted to take Trey Lance as well, I think that's not a bad idea. Trey Lance gives them a pretty good quarterback who I'd say is probably above or has at least a bigger upside than Drew Lock and Teddy, and so that's not a bad pick either. One of those two picks I think is probably the go-to for the Broncos, at least as for their first pick. And there's a lot of things they can do that'll help them, but I think Micah Parsons or Trey Lance is their safest route.
Yeah, something we neglected to mention was that Trey Lance could go to San Francisco. Like that's pretty much the second option of there. I don't
Yeah,
know, man. It's weird. I mean, Trey Lance is another guy's like he don't have like too much tape on him, obviously. Like what he did show was amazing.
yeah,
But I mean, the level of competition, now obviously you can outshine your level of competition, period. But you're playing North Dakota State. It's not the same. But
yeah. If
it
Trey
just
Lance
kind of
goes to the
depends.
Niners, that shakes up a lot of stuff because
Yeah,
that kind
because
of
then I wouldn't. Because then if Mac Jones doesn't go in that spot, then Mac Jones is probably going to fall a lot.
yeah. It's because I don't think other teams are as confident on Max Jones as Kyle Shanahan seems to be.
Yeah. So that rounds out the top 9. Now we get to them boys. I don't know what Dallas needs to draft defense, but knowing them, they probably find a way to draft another receiver or something like that.
So the most Dallas pick that I can see them making if he's still open would be like Jamar Chase, and that's that's not what they need, but that's what Dallas seems to usually do. Now, if the Panthers don't take Patrick Surtain, then that's the best pick for the Cowboys right there. Like they should, if Surtain's on the board and the Cowboys don't take him, then them boys are just being them boys. But that's probably at least from my point of view. If I was the Dallas GM and Patrick Surtain was open and I had the 10th pick, I'm gonna take him because we need to fix our defense and we don't need somebody like Jamar Chase.
Yeah, I mean that seems like the most common sense pick there. So if they don't get a cornerback or somebody to help on that defense in the secondary, like you got to be on crack at this point. I mean, I know Jerry Jones is running everything. I know he loves the offense, and you got Skip Bayless talking about if Kyle Pitts is there, he's going to be gone. So that's not even
Conference ain't going
relevant
to number 10.
unless they somehow trade up, which wouldn't make sense. They don't need another tight end right now. They need secondary help immediately, or if they
Yeah,
want to do all that help, because that O line's getting old. You got people retiring.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is Dallas has had problems for the past few years, of course, but they haven't really been offensive problems, right? You've had Dak doing fine, as well as Zeke and a few others. They've done fine. The issue is that their O line doesn't protect Dak, and the defense doesn't doesn't protect the end zone. They just let him walk right in a lot of plays, and they really need to put focus on either their O line or their defense. I'd say their defense would come first, but if for some reason they decide to pick an O lineman there, then by all means go ahead. It's not a bad pick. Just don't pick a receiver or a tight end or a running back. Don't do anything like that. That'd be terrible.
Yeah, I mean, some fans would have you believe that they should take a running back for whatever reason, right? Because they think Zeke is obviously Zeke ain't the same dude he was, 16 through 18, but there's no reason they should be taking anything on offense right now. Like, come on.
Yeah, and say they go for a running back. You got Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, Javante Williams. Like who do they really go for that they think's gonna like extremely like replace Zeke at this moment? Like those are all great guys, but do they really
None of them
fit for
should go in the
Dallas
top
right now? Yeah,
10. like Dallas just needs to draft the corner and do the smart thing and get it over with. All right, so we have a string of division rivals here. We just had Dallas at 10. Now we got New York and Philly at 11 and 12. I'm thinking both teams try to get a receiver. Um, Especially the Eagles, they definitely need some receivers to help out whoever's going to be the starter because they seem, based on what was said the other day, we're not really sure Jalen Hurts is going to be the starter, but he should be. Get some help from him. Try to rebuild whatever's left of that team up in Philly.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing. The Giants definitely need a little bit of a stronger receiving core. And although they had some decent outings from some of their receivers last year, it'll be good to have like the guy, like that's the receiver. And then for the Eagles, they need something. They got they got got to get somebody for Jalen Hurts or whoever to be able to depend on, and like know that they're not gonna be dropping passes or anything like that. And there's a few receivers in this draft that should definitely be on the board by pick 13 or not 13, by 11 and 12 that these two teams should be able to pull from.
Yeah, and then you have the situation where New York, they just got Kenny Galladay. You got Saquon coming back. Daniel Jones is starting to like become something. Obviously, like the offensive line is trying to get shored up as well. They can get a receiver to help out with that, or they can get somebody on defense. That's pretty much the only two options I see there.
Yeah.
And then as far as the Eagles, they can't get a receiver. If they don't want to get a receiver, then you get another corner. So I mean
Yeah.
that makes the most sense
I think those are
there.
the best options for those two teams.
I thought the consensus was that Surtain was better than Horn, but it seems like a lot of mock drafts have Horn going ahead of Surtain, which is interesting. Which,
Yeah,
if go
I
ahead,
don't think I'll be swayed by the mock drafts. I think I'm gonna stick with Sertain being the the easier, like better player out of these two, at least from what we've seen. Like I can
yeah,
see where you can make the argument, but I'm gonna say Sertain.
yeah. If Surtain is still there at 12, then the Eagles have to get him because obviously then the Cowboys didn't, which is the
Yeah,
issue. Unless if they picked Horn, maybe, but in any other scenario, they have to get Patrick Surtain right there.
yeah. I think that's the easiest pick if he's still on the board, especially, and that's like a big middle finger to Dallas. Like, thanks for leaving this one open. We got him.
Yeah, that would probably be the Cowboys' worst nightmare there.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to 13 and 14, we got the LA Chargers, which is still weird to say, and then you got the Minnesota Vikings at 14 right under them. Looks like a lot of mock drafts are saying that they're both going to get offensive linemen. Obviously, I don't think Sewell is going to be nearly close to that as far as his draft position. So it's looking like Rashawn Slater and Christian Darrisaw are going to be in that range right there for either of those teams to get.
Yeah, so if Sewell is still on the board for either the Chargers or the Vikings, the Cincinnati just needs to retire. Like the whole team, they need to go. But like you said, Rashawn Slater and Christian Darrisaw seem to be the two guys that people think are going to be floating around that area. And I definitely agree with the mock drafts this time. Both of these teams need to work on their own line, and either one of those guys is good for either team. So I think those two could go to either one, and I think those are the right picks.
Yeah, I mean, the Vikings are a weird team. I mean, you still got the whole is Kirk Cousins an elite QB kind of thing. Now you got Justin Jefferson, who could have easily been rookie of the year last year. So you got a good future there. Obviously, Dalvin Cook should be here completely healthy this season. So you do need a good offensive lineman.
Yeah,
Could work on the defense too, but either or.
I think yeah, there's that whole debate with Kirk Cousins. I think he's definitely like I wouldn't trade him or even worry about like getting rid of him right now because he's got a lot of potential still with them, and like they got Justin Jefferson and stuff. So I think the good play is get an O line and just help defend Cousins and help everyone else on that offensive line and help that offense be more productive.
Yeah, and then as far as LA, I mean, again, you got a young QB, Justin Herbert looked amazing last year. Obviously, won Rookie of the Year. basically just help him out, get some more weapons. You still got Keenan Allen, obviously. So they just need to improve overall. Both teams, I would just say, just improve at what you can get.
Yeah, I think we pretty much hit everything for both teams. Just get some better offensive production going on by adding in an O lineman and helping everybody out, and you're pretty solid for at least for your first pick. And that brings us to the 15th pick, which is the New England Patriots.
So over the past few days, obviously we're getting real close to the draft, so a lot of speculation is coming up. But it seems that all of a sudden now the Patriots are going to be taking Justin Fields at 15, according to many. If Justin Fields falls that far, that's a shame, number one. Number two, do, do you pretty much say Stidham's done? I don't think Stidham's that good anyway, but do you think, like, all right, he's done. He's not a guy. Cam is obviously just a bridge for them. Do you pick Justin Fields if he's there? Of course, but I wouldn't go out of my way if I'm New England to get a QB. I wouldn't trade up for one,
Yeah, no, I definitely wouldn't trade up for one, and I also wouldn't sit there at 15 and like thinking the whole time like, yeah, we can get Justin Fields. Like I'd prepare to look outside of that range almost immediately. And if you get lucky enough and he falls that far, then yeah, I'd take him. I mean, like you said, Cam's probably just a bridge for them. I think Cam has the potential to do very well with them. They picked up a few tight ends this year. They got Johnny Smith, and I think they got Hunter Henry. And Cam with a good tight end is pretty strong. But I think based on his last year's performance, they are maybe looking to get away from that. I just don't think that they're going to trade up to do so. And if they do, it's not a very good decision.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, if Justin Fields is there, then obviously, but I wouldn't be sitting there waiting on him. If you want to get Trey Lance, I mean, that you kind of work that match there. If he's there, that'd be good. I guess it's the kind of thing. It's like, they need their QB of the future. They need the permanent replacement for Tom Brady. Obviously, you can't literally replace Tom, but they need a QB of the future. But what they really need the most is a freaking wide receiver, man. Like, good Lord.
Yeah, that's one of the problems that Cam had last year. Like I just said, he's going to have two really great tight ends to throw to this season, and Cam's great with a tight end. But you still need to have good receivers, and no matter who was behind the helm for them last year, there was no one to throw to, and they just need to add some receivers to that team. They also just had Edelman retire, so now like they got to do something.
Yeah, I mean, think about Tom's last year. I mean, they went 12-4. They did win the division, but they didn't have to bye. But they got bounced in the first round by Tennessee. I mean, the offense was just not good. I mean, it was literally Tom Brady, Julian. You had like White, obviously. You had the guys that had been there, but with Gronk retiring, the tight end spot was just bad. They fixed that this year, but wide receiver is just unacceptable. I mean, it's just not good. So they need to get a receiver more than anything to me.
Yeah, I think so with the receiver as well. Because you got tight end like Kyle Pitts that can kind of play like a receiver. But Johnny Smith and Hunter Henry are more of those like tanks. Like they can play sort of like a receiver, but they're not as versatile. Like they're really good. They just they need to be in the tight end position. And so they need to grab a receiver to really round out their field of weapons.
Yeah, and I've been seeing some info floating around as far as a possible trade for Gilmore. I don't really know what they would. I don't know what they would get for Stephon. I mean, obviously, he was Defensive Player of the Year, but I mean, he's also 30. So I'm not really sure what you could do with that trade.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of a hard thing to get other teams to kind of sign on for, to like make a trade for him and give you something worth giving him up. Because like you said, he's still a great player, but it's still going to be hard to get something equal for him by giving him away.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I think they should just take the receiver, the best receiver that they can get, and keep it moving. Because it's not like they were 2-14 last year. They still won 7 games, considering the crap they went through. The fact that they had so many guys opt out for COVID. Cam got COVID after having a crazy game against Seattle. You know, Julian Edelman being like the only receiver worth a crap. Um, not having tight ends is just
It was a bad year for them, and they still came out 7-9. So
yeah. I mean, and plus you're going from a guy that was an assistant for 20 years to Cam, who was coming off of another injury, hadn't really played consistently in 2 seasons almost. So they weren't trash last year. They just need to get better, and they can probably win 10 games this year.
yeah, I give them 10 games with the right picks and moves here as we approach the season.
Yeah, I agree there. All right, so looking over the second half of the first round, what picks interest you the most?
So I think pick number 18 for Miami is an interesting pick just because they also have the sixth pick. So they kind of set themselves up for some good success there. Um, I'd also be interested in what the Jets would do at 23 as well. Pittsburgh is probably an interesting pick, as well as Jacksonville having the 25th pick and the first pick. That's a good one. Baltimore has 27 and 31, so they can make some pretty good moves there as we enter the end of the first round. And then Green Bay at 29 might do something pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I can totally see Green Bay taking another quarterback because that's all they know how to do in the first round, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's right in their character.
Yeah, you would think. I mean, this horse has been beaten to death, like beyond death at this point. But I cannot understand why they would draft Jordan Love last year after they went to the conference championship the year before. So hopefully Green Bay actually gets Aaron Rodgers some help this time around.
Dallas is to wide receivers as Green Bay is to quarterbacks.
So who do you think is going to be at that last pick with Tampa Bay? Like, who do you think they'll need?
For Tampa, um, let's see. So they brought back their whole team, didn't they? Like
Yeah,
essentially from last season.
all of them.
I guess offensively they're set. Like I think maybe they could focus on some defenders or something. Like I would, if I were them, I'd rather build defense than offense, at least with the team that they have right now.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, looking at all the offensive weapons they have, they got all the same people back. Then they brought in some more guys. They re-signed pretty much, everybody that they needed to. So I would think like maybe adding some guys in the secondary because that was probably the weakest part of the team. Like when they were
Yeah,
at their best, it was probably the secondary.
I see a few mock drafts talking about them taking Gregory Rousseau as an edge. So I guess that'd be a decent pick for them.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, anything on defense, I would say would be a good pick. But to me, secondary is probably the biggest
More, yeah.
concern.
But yeah, that's probably the best thing for them to do because I mean, there's nothing to do for their offense. It's almost not debatably the best in the league. So
Yeah. All right, guys. So that'll be it for our draft preview. Like I said, we obviously can't go into every single round, but we went over pretty much the most exciting parts of the draft, which would be the top 10, top 15. And beyond that, it'll be a lot less chaotic, obviously. So we will be staying tuned for the draft. Hopefully, maybe next year we can live stream the draft or something like that. But for this year, we'll just be doing a draft recap, which will be back on Friday as normal instead of Thursday. So with that being said, this has been T-Bar31 with Jaboc the Great. Thank y'all for tuning in. As always, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see y'all later.